Hello everybody, welcome back to From Rhythm to Algorithm. We continue on with our derivation. What is the natural definition of sensorality? It is what it is, sensorality is what sensorality is. Sensorality identifies what sensorality is, looking to stabilize that syllability by connecting it to a well-defined portion of syllability. And so where I wanted to start with today is what is research? And the whole edifice of academia, of the process of doing science, right? The scientific method. And so, right, you go out, you ask a question. Really the sociological motivation is to get a job or some sort of respectability, right? To go to school. It's really kind of like getting you ready for the workforce or getting you ready for society. But everyone's heard it, right? You should be a doctor or you should be a lawyer, right? There's some sort of respectability just amongst culture, just other human beings going out and living lives and saying, this is a worthwhile way to live a life. Not really focusing on that, but the point being of the overall process of doing research. What are you doing, right? You're going and you're analyzing data. In our case here, we're analyzing words, but you're assessing some data. Maybe you have a hypothesis, maybe you have a preconceived notion of what you're trying to accomplish, but you're researching, you're discovering. I would say research is discovery. And so you get some data, whatever that data is, and then you write a paper, you have an abstract to give people an overview, you go through your methods, your procedures, your outcomes, and then you have a conclusion, right? The point of research is a conclusion. And that's in the whole edifice of human beings running around and creating language, creating structure, creating logic, maximizing efficiency. Optimal efficiency isn't always just minimizing one thing or maximizing another thing. It's creating this dynamic balance. But point being is what is sensorality is a conceptual differentiation sorting from sentient beings and sorting from inanimate objects. Again, Piers Morgan uncensored versus my microwave being a sensor that is inconsistent to the base of sense. I have senses, I am a sensor with an S. And so, but we are doing this derivation in a culture, in a society where I was born into, you were born into, what? We have a science. And so in reality, or again, more specifically, it's analysis. And then by doing analysis, you come to a conclusion. And so you'll get this sentiment throughout the scientific method, the scientific progress, that, one door closes, another door opens. We use that metaphor, but asking one question opens more questions to be asked. And so it's the simultaneous process of just overall discovery, posing questions that you're not going to answer, and then focusing in on and coming to a conclusion, a point. And so, right, a theorem is a point. A proof is a point. A conclusion on any research paper is a point. And it's all represented and constructed with language. And so we've had this fundamental inversion of language, gauge to language, the A and the U, changing that fundamental element. We haven't had too much relationship specifically between A and U articulated. Again, this whole process is reduction. My point being is we're already working in an environment, a culture, a scientific structure, where again, this filtration of the English alphabet. We have this empirical evidence. Why is English the language of science? And it is. And it's this overall filtration and this overall differentiation built on this inversion of E and A, our fundamental geometric identity. And so with the base being E, right? I didn't pick the base of the natural log being E. You didn't pick the base of the natural log being E. I didn't pick the standard tuning for a guitar to be E. You didn't pick that. It's this overall consolidation, this process of science in its holistic sense by the whole species. And so we're finding a difference already made conceptually of what is sensation, what is censorship, what is the base of sense, what is the domain of sense versus inanimate objects, and we're reducing the linguistics. In the same way you have a research paper and you come to a conclusion, it's a reduction, it's a limitation. And so a derivation, right, in its entirety, right, coming to a conclusion is a derivation for anybody. You have your data, you have your evidence, and you're coming to a specific point. And then you're back in math class, right? We have what is a point? And then you say, hey, man, what is logically, what is a point? Really, that's what people say in conversation. What is your point? What is the point of from rhythm to algorithm? To demonstrate how words work and why it matters. Again, we have this underlying unidentified physical principle, rhythm, its inverse vibration, that has never been integrated into fundamental physical ontology. So we've worked through a bunch of results clearly, but emphasizing overall the process of science is contraction, is reduction. And then we have this fundamental stability, numerically that presents as 2. You see that in language systems, 1, 2, many, but just overall identifying this difference, sensorality that's already present in our language and making it and finalizing it, which is a form of finite, exhausting all of the linguistics that could represent this concept, sensorality. And in doing so, in this completion aspect, we will produce the new word form. But it's a demonstration of what people have called throughout mathematical history the incompleteness theorem. We are demonstrating completeness and incompleteness simultaneously. It's this fundamental dichotomy. There is finiteness, definitions are definite, literally all of them are, but they have the same base sound, and you have to make some sort of definite differentiation between them for them to have unique meaning. And so that is what we are doing, taking our fundamental syllability, our units of sound, arranging them in a unique order to exhaust and to classify and to stabilize to prove what is sensorality. So to start today, wanting to emphasize that the overall scientific progress is reduction, is a derivation, and we're finding a limit within that derivation already presented with the English alphabet. Moving on with our derivation steps, I still want to respond to the Tim Gowers tweets, but again, when you do actual science, you just kind of focus on that. And so moving along. What is discreteness to independence? Independent is separate. Independent is unique. Independent produces discretion. What is, again, I can provide some commentary, but the words have meaning. If you speak English well enough to understand me, there's really no point for the commentary besides I'm making YouTube videos and content with some flow to it. But what is discretion to sensation, right? Is sensation discretionary? Can you choose what you feel? Sensorality is discretionality. Sensorality is secretionality. Sensorality is the secretion section. Natural definition, direct iteration, but if you've ever been to SeaWorld, the splash zone. Splash zone sounds a little different if it's secretion, but again, showing you each step, we're bounded in this overall conceptual structure, not die. And that's the first thing anybody's ever done, if you've thought about it or not. If you haven't thought about it, that's called privilege. But run around trying not to die, and then all of your conceptualization is reproduce. And then once you after that, it's think. But a lot of verbiage, a lot of conceptualization, a lot of syllability does sound sexual, because it is. But moving along. What is algorithmicality to categoricality? Again, emphasizing this GOR, G-O-R-I. That chunk of syllability is now preserved. And every time we say sensorality is, we renormalize that conceptually, and we're going to prove, again, the definition of sensorality by reducing the syllability. And I think it's the consonants. I'm almost certain it's the consonants. Are categories agentic? Are angles agentic? And I love agenticality. It's hot on the logic scene. Sensorality is a single angle. What is a thing to a thang? What is sing to sang? Again, what is slang? I think we get another update on that here shortly. But informal presentation of information was the last thing we said, if I remember correctly. But again, another direct iteration of a vowel, I to a, thing to thang, clear empirical usage. I'm assuming that thang is slang. Just moving along. What is charge to angle? What is charge to category? Category is sensory. Categoricality is uniformitality. Natural definition. Sensorality is unfamiliarity. Liars are unfamiliar. Natural definition. Again, emphasizing the word form, unfamiliar ends by spelling out the word liar. What is family to liability? Would you lie for family? Oh, yeah. What is sense to verse? What is sense to serve? Sensorality serves sense. Sensorality serves sentence. Like Professor Carroll out there should be serving a sentence. What is sphericality to generosity? Again, emphasizing generosity is this complete expanded form of energy. Good vibes are generous. And then the word spherical contains the word is speciality, right? Every time we see the word sphericality, speciality, think geometrically, sphere. And then just the linguistic representation, sphericality. Because the syllability of speciality is contained within spherical. And we're finding some form of sensorality contained within another thing, and we just derive it's trivial once we get the right connections in order. But is generosity special? What is sphericality to generosity? What is the inverse of a sphere? I actually shot this a straight up Google, because again, we do come across this straight up questions where it feels like, right, clearly somebody's posed that or at least thought about that or should have at some point. No clear answer, but just what is the inverse of a sphere? Again, all of this derivation, all of my derivation is in order. And so it's more of the conceptual progression, right? I can get things directly wrong and it's still like this concept coming after this concept after this concept. But what is the inverse of a sphere? Did not have a direct clear answer in terms of just, hey, go into Harvard and say, what is that? What's the inverse of a sphere? Didn't seem like there was a clear answer. But what is there to hear, right? I want to say again, the base, now we've made this differentiation, the base has to be contained within the letter structure. Maybe that's meaningful, maybe that's not, but the word spelled out of sphere is here, right? Sphere is here. Where is here? When is now? The direct logic that I presented in like one of the first vibrational information theory lectures. What is a circle to a sphere? Again, all of the words you're using have what you call 3D conceptualizations. A circle is a 2D representation of a sphere is a 3-sphere. A sphere is a sphere, a circle is a circle. All of them are already defined in this geometric bounding that you can't break. This fundamental stability of 2, conceptually what people called, we live in 3 dimensions. So what is a circle to a sphere? Fundamental theorem of geometry, a circle is a ring, R-I-N-G. Again, another big, right, directly in mathematical ontology, what is a circle? A ring. Like ring, yeah. If you're in math, you know what I'm saying. What is the theme of melody? Is melody sensory? And even it's interesting, like when I present these things, because in this reduction, again, we're getting closer to similar syllability. Like we're forming tongue twisters. So like my natural progression, it's like I have to like, again, I feel like we're at a loud concert hall and I'm trying to like scream, but I'm not trying to like raise my voice, but the actual like resonance progressing through the vowels is like so close that it's like hard for you to hear. And this happens in person, like with my parents who've heard me talk my entire life. Several instances with science team coming up to me in person. Again, now that you guys see all this derivation and this has been going on my whole life, like what the fuck were you guys doing? Yeah, that was another, again, you're still wasting all of my life. Moving along. Is melody sensory? Is a clock a circle? All right, and for whatever reason, the conceptualization, even a broken clock is right twice a day, was present when I wrote that. Is a clock a circle? All right, some sort of geometric reality, I guess, or something. There feels some sort of fundamental science to even a broken clock is right twice a day, past just saying somebody is stupid and gets something correct. Moving along. Is a perimeter an edge? All right, EZ, edge. Is a boundary an edge? What is a disc to a ring? Ring. Is a disc a circle? What is a term to a phrase? Parse phrase. What is spherical to spiritual? Soulful is spiritual. Is circularity spherical? Is spherical circular? Right? We don't like circular logic. We don't like spherical logic. We like hyperbolic logic. We like unbounded asymptotic logic. We like unilateral logic. We don't like mutually exclusive logic, right? This process of existence, inversion, opposition, stabilization is definitive. It is one way. That's why we have definitions. Again, all of this logic builds up to sensorality is, and then do words exist? Yes. And we demonstrate the irreducibility, again, by forcing this false paradox, this false out of bounds. Or this real out of bounds, but this false word, like a word construction that will directly show the iteration and define sensorality. Are circles special? Symbols, circles. Is fun special? Is heat loud, right? Is water wet? Is heat hot? Is heat loud? All right, again, throw a pack of weed at somebody and say, I can't hear it in here, it's too loud. All right, why is that a phrasing? Why is it an association? Saying pungent, potent weed is loud. Some association, again, of bright scent to bright sound. Is sound hot? Sound is entropy. The base of language is entropy, right? The base of language is sound. Sound is entropic. It is that energy, that movement potential that is not converted into work. Is temperature hot? What is temperature to entropy? What is connection to completion? What is touch to sound? Sound stand. Verticality stands. What do you stand for, Professor Carroll? Is it science? What do you stand for, Governor DeWine? Is it the law? What do you stand for, Attorney Blanche? Or was it the Warsh? We just swore in Warsh. I just watched the swearing-in ceremony with Justice Clarence Thomas, who's a fucking carnival joke. And then we're all just up there, so help me God, which is interesting. If you go into court and commit perjury, and everyone's aware of that, you could do that. You might say, so help me God at the end, like, wow, if you just lied and broke all of the laws, only one person can help you. Wow. Again, this interesting stuff we can learn by our procedures, and again, our limits, our constructions we have in society. And then obviously we're going to commit fraud, racketeering, and conspiracy globally. No one's going to give a flying fuck, because that's what we do here, is lie, cheat, and steal. But verticality stands. Sensorality spears. Spearing pierces. What is spearing to speaking? Speaking is peaking, right? Literally directly, natural definition, direct iteration. A glimpse is a sneak peek. Sensorality glimpses. Glimpse, glance. Sensorality eclipses. To eclipse is to pass. Eclipse, ellipse. What is an eclipse to an ellipse? What is ellipticality to circularity? Right, an ellipse is a circle with eccentricity. What is ellipticality to sphericality? Sensorality is hyperbolicality. Again, the geometric difference being bounded, unbounded. But again, it's just too independent. Where do you get hyperbolic stuff? Trajectories is just, again, literally a comet coming in and not being bounded by the Earth. And so it's just independent. You have independent objects. Fractions are independent things. And so if you have a hyperbole or something that's not bounded, it's like an independent system approach. The physical motivation is like a physical system that can't touch another physical system. Sensorality is hyperbole. Hyper is extra. Hype type. The opposite of easy is difficult. Sensorality is difficult. A cult is difficult. Natural definition, direct iteration. What is difference to difficult? Sensorality is deterrence. Deterrence is resistance. Natural definition. What is deterrence to determination? Where there's a will, there's a way. What is deterrence to difference? Is defiance a deterrent? Is torrentiality a deterrent? Again, that torrential rainfall, the torrential weather, the torrential, always pops in there for the weather forecast. Sensorality is gradation. So originally I went to write sensorality as gradation, which is like a word I use to grade something. A gradient is gradation. Then I went to spell it, and then again, you have these weird Again, the same way we have hyphens, all of the LYs at the end of word are all hyphenated, every single one of them. That's why you have this weird, do I put two L's? Is there already an L? It's just like, it's not a natural, it's not like the linguistics doesn't exist. And so you just have to like force these weird constructions. And gradation was one of them. Like the GRAD to AITION just feels like, no, that's not a word. And so again, all of this, again, this limitation is present in the letters themselves. But you can kind of, again, push the conceptualization like we just did. But sensorality is gradation, like radiation with a G in front. Gradation, grade. Sensorality, grades. Sensorality is graduality. And again, for whatever reason, I've not written one Turkish word, but like the G in Turkish is like always like a silent thing. And now like in this sequence, specifically this video, the articulation of the G is like going like silenting. Again, we're showing some unique progression through all of language of the actual sound represented by the letters. And again, everything people talk about is all the same. So it's not like you don't know Turkish or you don't know Hindi or you don't know Chinese, and it's like everyone's talking about life experience and we all experience the same shit. But sensorality is graduality, sensorality is graduationality. What is sensoration to coloration? Colorationality is color, natural definition. Color is rational. Color is discrete. Color is representable by a fraction. Natural definition. What is coloration to vibration? Right? If there's a block of lead vibrating at a given temperature, or a block of cesium vibrating, or polonium, or whatever, right? What is coloration to vibration? What is color to temperature? Sensorality, fundamental theorem of physics, sensorality differentiates color and sound. Literally right now, you viewer, what is the difference between color and sound on a direct sensation level? That's sensorality. And what is it? What's color? What's the sound? The sound's the vibration hitting my eardrums. The color's the vibration hitting my eyes. Oh, it's vibration. Oh, we're back to it's all vibration. It is what it is. It's all vibes everywhere. But it is. Yeah, again, vibrations are produced by limiting movement, right? You try to limit movement, you create a vibration, you turn on your cell phone, oh, look, there's a limit. It's already consolidated right there. You turn on vibrate, and vibrates enough, it will move. Vibration is the inverse of rhythm. From rhythm to algorithm. And so that was another thing with the, right, speciality is sphericality holistically. And then the inverse of a sphere, remember our big conceptualization, we have the sound sensorality. We're working out this consequence of spelling. We've already axiomatized speciality. So we have speciality and then sensorality, and then speciality is sphericality. What's the inverse of a sphere? What's the relationship of speciality to sensorality? And so, right, the two sensoralities are inverse, I think. But again, we're finding, again, this some sort of fundamental inversion, some sort of fundamental unique definition, relationship, association. And proving that linguistically what could be represented by these sounds, these letters, completely. And so we got to be very close, again, explicitly, directly, to a specific solution of a unique chronological consequence of all of language. But directly, empirically, viscerally to you, the difference between color and sound at a sensation level is what sensorality is. Is charge sensational? Sentience is sensational. Viscerality is sensationality. Again, what is viscerality to emotionality? Again, just continuing to work through our analytical process to find and to stabilize the definition of sensorality. My rights continue to be violated. It is profoundly and extensively illegal. What is being done to me, what has been done to me, is fucking disgusting. I say it in every video because it's true. I just want to have a little bit of money to eat properly, to sleep properly, and to work, and to have whatever time I have left with my parents' family. And again, I've given up on having a career and a family of my own. But that seems like a normal goal in life, and it's just not possible because, well, I did science and everyone's a bunch of cowards. profound, pathetic fucking cowards. Again, here is the law. It is right there on your screen. Destruction and not disseminating scientific information has caused more death and destruction globally than will ever be enumerated, will ever be discussed, will ever be acknowledged. But that's because you live around cowards, losers, total fucking... I don't even have good words, man. Like, it's just, people are just so pathetic. You can't even, like, insult them. They're just, like, too stupid to, like, listen. It's just like, here's the law, do the right thing. Nope, okay, there's a lot of death and destruction. It's not some big cinematic presentation. People just don't care about shit. And so, I was going to respond to the Tim Gowers tweet. Don't have it pulled up. This will be a plenty long enough episode, again, because I do fundamental derivation every day, and I've been doing so every day of my life. And it's just like, every single step of this is, like, $25 million worth of math. In demonstrating this analytical process one time. Again, P versus NP is directly, completely solved. Mass gap directly and completely resolved. Riemann hypothesis directly, completely resolved. Birchman-Swinnertire, I don't know what that shit is. Hodge, not even sure what that shit is. There was another one that was directly. I mean, it's like, it's the structure of all of language. What I've proven, and again, this whole process is already done and demonstrated. Speciality is special with an ITY, directly, literally true, is the conclusion, the end, the point of this whole analytical process. I'm going through another specific solution, but there is 0 point besides. Again, I have nothing to do, and my life is destroyed. I would much rather be having a wife and a family. But, you know, if you work hard and contribute to your community, all of the pathetic fucking losers who have never contributed anything get to have careers and families, while they lie, cheat, and steal, but they feel good about themselves because, again, they're following false authority. Which, again, with no religious reference whatsoever, if you look and say, the law office that preserved the law the most, it said, what's the first rule? Don't follow false authority. It's like, what do you do when you're born into a society where people are too fucking stupid to listen, too arrogant and privileged to think that they are the problem, right? So many people just smile and wave. All of our academics, they say please and thank you. They regurgitate the same bullshit. Oh, I'm a critical scientist. Extraordinary claims require extraordinary evidence. Rhythm is real. There are structure to words. Here it is. I demonstrated it. Wah! The most visceral, empirical, profound scientific denial ever. I've never met somebody capable of moral behavior, and that's just like being reasonable. Truly. So that's kind of concerning, like profoundly concerning. But that is what I have for right now. Thank you for watching, and I will see you on the next one.